Turbo and 2K show.
Oops, that is the wrong camera once again, 2K crew. I do apologize. We're working through some stuff here. Let me do this because, yeah, we're still messing around with a second camera. But here we are. Turbo and 2K's live. It is March 2nd. And like I was telling the TikTok crew here before we got kicked off, it is March already, ladies and gentlemen. Where the hell is this year gone? You know, here it... excuse me, here in Michigan, it seems like January, the end of the year stuff kind of gets out of the way. December, Christmas, you can even include Thanksgiving in there. It all kind of seems to go very quickly. But then once it hits January, it starts to drag. It starts to drag on big time. But this year, it seems like it's kind of flown by because we're in March already, ladies and gentlemen. Baseball season is upon us. The opening day is the end of March, and I for one, cannot wait. But that is not what you're here for, ladies and gentlemen. You are here for... Let me make sure I got the right stuff here. Yes, here we go. The 2025 NFL mock draft, Turbo and 2K style. And I was kind of having a little rant over on TikTok before we kind of jumped off here. But this is usually when I'm going to say the lay people come out with their mock drafts. And it seems like this day and age, every single media outlet that covers the NFL, it's like a rite of passage. Like you have to give a mock draft. And 99.999% of the time, no one's mock draft is perfect. There's trades that happen. There's injuries that happen. There's free agent signings that happen, which in particularly this year, the trades and the free agent signings are going to be huge. And but the combine is over, and that's usually when, like I said, the lay people or the amateur mock drafters get their first mock draft out, and I'll be the first to admit this will be the first and only one that we do. But yeah, this is McShay and all these other guys have had their mocks out for weeks now, because they get paid to do this. And unfortunately, and I have notes. Look, I have notes, which is, if you follow the channel for any amount of time, you know that I kind of fly by the seat of my pants. I kind of like things unedited, unscripted. But when it comes to this many people and their positions and where they went to school, your boy has to take some notes. Let's just be honest. Your boy has to take some notes. But for the sake of time, I only did the first 15 picks, and I'll kind of go over that once we get closer to it. But let's get into some news first. Let's get into some news. Let's get into some news because, yes, there was some news happening. Let's see. Where do we want to start here? Well, we as a show talked about the Luka to the Lakers trade, and this past week he ended up playing against Dallas. And if you're a bettor, which for those of you that know me know I am, I did take he would get a triple-double in that game, which he did. So thank you, Luka. But he not only he had a game. He had a game. Excuse me. This tweet's from Mavs Muse over on Twitter. Luka Doncic has now recorded a triple-double versus every single team in the league. Side note, he's 25 years old. Legendary. And speaking of legendary, look at this picture. This is a picture of Luka looking over at the GM of the Mavs. Man, stone cold right there. Right there. That man knows he messed up. That man knows that he let a generational talent out the window, out the door, for an aging superstar. And like I said, Luka's 25 years old. So he's going to have the keys to this Lakers car as long as he wants to. And I think for even the lay people, the lay NBA people like me, it looks like him and LeBron are meshing well. So it's going to be exciting to see where that Lakers team ends up. And I think I believe they're in the 4th spot. And basketball doesn't end until June. So we still have March, April, May, and then June. We still have 4 months of the NBA season. Now, granted, the last 2 are playoffs. Excuse me, but we shall see where that ends. Do I want to get into? There was, and I was actually talking to Mrs. Turbo the other yesterday, because the NHL had their outdoor game at the Horseshoe at Ohio State, and I thought, man, that would be really cool to go watch, just an outdoor hockey game. Now, granted, I don't live in Columbus, but we're in Michigan, so I'm assuming Columbus's weather was fairly similar to what we had yesterday, which was 20 degrees and extremely windy. So the threat of any ice melting probably wasn't happening. But if you followed that, excuse me, excuse me. If you if you followed that series, there has been times where the ice has been melting, and it's been an actually like a safety concern to where they I don't know if they've postponed them or rescheduled them or just kind of said, nah, this is dumb. But yesterday didn't matter. It was cold enough. And we saw the Red Wings play the Blue Jackets. And for those of you Red Wings fans, this is from Barstool Detroit. This is my captain. Dylan Larkin was quoted as saying, "This is probably the ugliest stadium I've ever been in." Now, a little caveat to that story is the skate guards that the players wore from the locker room onto the ice. The Red Wings had University of Michigan skate guards. So just to kind of a little jab to Michigan teams playing in down south in Ohio. So kind of cool that they're bringing extending that rivalry, if you will. I'd be curious to see if the Buckeyes had been winning as much as the Wolverines have here lately, if things would have been different. So but still, ultimately, those outdoor hockey games are awesome. I really want to get to one. However, I'm a fair weather fan, and I really don't want to freeze. So that's kind of the catch-22 that I'm in. Let's see here. What else do we have to get to? There was one big trade that went down in the NFL. This is from the NFL's Twitter account. 49ers trading wide receiver Deebo Samuel to the Commanders for a 5th-round pick via Ian Rappaport. Now, what's kind of a weird sideline to this is all last season, Brandon Ayuk was trying to get traded to the Commanders last year. And 49ers said, no, we're not trading you. You're going to have to play, fulfill your contract. And now all of a sudden, Deebo, he doesn't even request a trade. They just tell him, go ahead, see if you can seek a trade, and we'll see what we can do. And obviously, a 5th-round pick is what they could do. And I was actually talking to one of the 2K crew at the gas station before I came, and he kind of asked me what I thought about it, about this trade. Excuse me. I'll be so happy when this just nasty, phlegmy nastiness gets out of me. But I told him, I said, Deebo is a very good player. However, if you look at his numbers last year as compared to the last couple years where he's been a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more impactful on offense, his numbers were down. I don't know if it was because of injury. I'm not really sure, but that whole 49ers team just kind of seemed out of whack last year. And I'm not saying it's because of Deebo, because you really didn't hear, leading up to, he had requested a trade, they extended him, and then he had at least one good year, and then all of a sudden just kind of started deteriorating. And I don't know if it's because of age or, he was basically the piece on offense for that 49ers team. He was running the ball. He was catching the ball. I mean, he was basically doing everything but throwing the ball. And this was prior to Christian McCaffrey coming over via trade, and even afterwards to a certain account. But he was wanting to get paid wide receiver money, and the whole contract dispute and everything else. But we didn't hear that, like he was disgruntled or he was upset or was requesting a trade. They just said go ahead and try to find a trade partner. So if you're Brandon Ayuk, you got to be sitting back going, "What the hell did I do? Why couldn't this happen for me?" And it's going to be interesting to see with that, especially that 49ers team in particular. They are drafting relatively high as compared to their standards here of late. And what do they do with Brock Purdy? There's a lot of question marks surrounding that team. And I really wouldn't want to be John Lynch trying to make these decisions because that they're very similar in like offense or weapons period, whether it's defense or offense, to the Cincinnati Bengals, where they're having, T. Higgins. Are they going to franchise tag him? What are we doing with Jamar Chase? It's almost an overabundance of weapons, and all of them want to get paid, and rightfully so because they're putting up numbers that they would put them in the tiers to where they are more than qualified to make said dollar. So again, above my pay grade for sure. For sure. Let's see here. I do have one for the Royals here. I wanted to throw this in because this guy here, this is from MLB Pipeline over on Twitter. The Royals' number 1 prospect, MLB number 22, and 2024 number 6 overall pick, absolutely crushes his first homer of the spring. 115.4 miles an hour, 435 feet. This kid's name is Jack Caglione, and he played for Florida and was both a pitcher and a first baseman, I believe, but just a stud. Just an absolute stud. And to watch him in the College World Series was absolutely phenomenal. And it's one of those where, if the Royals get a couple more pieces to put alongside Bobby Witt Jr., and they have a good stable of arms. And this team could be dangerous. I'm not saying that Jack is going to be in the bigs this year, but he's going to be in there sooner rather than later. I mean, his play is going to put him into that into that discussion, and I for one am excited because watching him, like I said, watching him in the College World Series was absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. And like I said, dude throws gas. I mean, he is a very, very good pitcher. Is he going to be the next Shohei? I doubt it. But that's a decision that the Royals are going to have to make, and I'm excited for it. Sign me up. All right, well, let's get to what everyone has been wanting. The 2025 Turbo and 2Ks NFL Mock Draft version 1.0. And like I told the TikTok crew, there will not be a 1.1 or 2.0. This is a one and done thing. This is a one and done thing. And there's a couple things that, because I actually was proactive in this for once, and I had everything written out, and I had, I actually put down some reasons why I actually thought this player was going to set, which team. And a lot of it had to do with where Matt Stafford ended up. And as we saw, this was Thursday. From Adam Schefter. LA's quarterback is back. The Rams and Matthew Stafford reached an agreement today on a restructured deal that keeps him in Los Angeles and squashes any and all trade speculation per sources. The first significant offseason quarterback domino has fallen. And you might be asking yourself, well, what the hell is that? What does that have to do with the mock draft? Well, it has to do with a lot. There are a lot of teams at the top, in particular, of this draft, as per normal, because if you're really bad, your quarterback probably is really bad. So you pick towards the top of the draft. It just kind of, one hand washes the other type thing. And if you have if you already have a quarterback in place, and let's see, like like the Patriots. They drafted Drake May last year. Don't need a quarterback. But if you look at the Titans, they need one. Their quarterback play was terrible last year. Will Levis is not the guy. The Browns, Deshaun Watson is presumably out for the year, if not out for his career. And with the salary cap aspect of all of this, are they going to invest in a veteran quarterback and then still have to pay Deshaun $50+ million? So you're looking at possibly close to $100 million of like a $260 million salary cap just to a quarterback. So is that something they're going to do? I believe the Giants don't even have a quarterback on the roster. And their quarterback play was terrible last year as well. Again, one of the reasons why they're picking number 3. And you could also throw in that, they decided to extend Daniel Jones and let the running back go. It's Saquon. Let Saquon go, which, as we see in hindsight 2020, and even most of us in the space were saying, why would you? Danny Dimes is terrible. Saquon is really good. I have a feeling the health concerns with Saquon was one of the reasons why they didn't want to pay him. But we saw a complete career resurgence with the Eagles this year. I don't think I guarantee if you polled every single NFL fan before the season last year, they would say that Saquon is going to have an amazing season, but not a potentially record-breaking season. So Matt Stafford kind of plays in a role where, okay, the Jags don't need a quarterback. Raiders need a quarterback. Jets need a quarterback. Panthers don't need a quarterback. Saints, what are they doing with Derek Carr? I mean, I believe he's on the last year of his deal. Do they get a quarterback? Bears don't need one. 49ers don't need one, and so on. Now, before we go into where I have who going where, let me just throw this out. This is not a sexy draft. And by that, I mean, especially compared to last year, excuse me, where we had a ton of quarterbacks go, and the vast majority of all the top quarterbacks had some sign of success. Excuse me. I mean, you could argue that Caleb Williams, had the worst outcome of all the first round picks, but I think a lot of that was coaching. A lot of it was scheme. It wasn't so much his bad play, which is why, enter Ben Johnson. And you look at Jaden Daniel, fantastic. Team made the playoffs, made some noise in the playoffs. Drake May, very good with the Pats. The Pats sucked. We saw Bo Nix make the playoffs, was in the running for the Rookie of the Year. And then we saw Michael Penix Jr. come in later in the year for a quote-unquote hurt Kirk Cousins, but Cousins looked terrible. So the quarterbacks in this draft, I don't think are nearly as flashy as the ones last year. If it's me and I'm picking in the top half of this draft, like I said, I did the first 15 picks. I don't think there's a quarterback here that I would draft in the first 15. Could I be completely wrong? Absolutely. Some of the, a couple of these guys or all four could absolutely shock the world. But this draft is going to be just filled with defensive studs, offensive linemen. The wide receivers aren't there. The running backs, a ton of running backs. Excuse me. But who's going to, which team is going to use a first round pick on one of these running backs? And we've seen a resurgence with the running back position. We've already talked about Saquon. There was a ton of a ton of running backs where a lot of those guys took deals that were so much less than what they anticipated when they got drafted. We saw a lot of new faces, in new places making instant impacts at the running back position, and now I think we're seeing that it does take a good running game to complement a good passing game to be successful. It's just hands down, hands down. And like I mentioned, because there are so many quarterback needy teams in this draft, I think there's going to be some reaches. I think there's going to be some FOMO, and add to that I'm going to say lack of really good veteran free agents. I mean, we talked about Stafford, but that was going to have to come via trade. Got Sam Darnold. I mean, there's not a lot of Aaron Rodgers potentially. Okay. So it's going to be a game of musical chairs, and who's going to be the one left out? Who's going to be the one left out? All right, I muted that one for you folks. I didn't think you really needed to hear that. Sorry to those on TikTok. But so I kind of have it broken down like this. I have 3 guys in my top tier, and then it's kind of the tier of everybody else. I have Abdul Carter from Penn State, Travis Hunter from Colorado, and Mason Graham from Michigan. These guys are and if I had to rank them 1 to 3, it's Carter, Graham, then Hunter. I know there's a lot of people really, really high on Travis Hunter. You know, he's come out and said that it's harder to play corner and wide receiver than pitch and hit, which I think is absolutely asinine. But we're not here to debate that. What we are here to debate is, from what I've gathered from a lot of the insiders that I follow, is that, like 2Ks and I kind of speculated, this Travis Hunter thing, he's going to be drafted as a corner, but with a package on offense as him as a receiver. Do I see him playing 100+ snaps like he did a game in college? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But there are some that saying he's the top corner in this draft anyway. I don't really see it like that, but without further ado, the first pick in the 2025 Turbo and 2Ks NFL mock draft, the Tennessee Titans select Abdul Carter out of Penn State. Now you might be saying, well, Turbo, he's got a stress fracture in his foot. What does that mean? It means I don't give a shit. This guy is the guy. He is the best player in this draft, period. Not even a question mark, exclamation point. Just sign on the dotted line. And like I mentioned, Tennessee is one of these teams that is quarterbackless. But like I said, there really isn't a quarterback in this draft, in my opinion, that's going to be a franchise-saving quarterback. I know that's kind of a hot take. People are going to say Cam Ward is awesome. Shedeur Sanders is awesome. Okay. At the number 1 overall pick, you have to hit. You have to hit. And for right now, the Titans have so many holes that taking the best overall player who dominated in the postseason for the college football playoff with one arm. I don't believe his foot injury is going to hold him back that much. I have a feeling that everything's going to be status quo. Once training camp hits and OTAs, I think everything's going to be A-okay. And if Carter does anything even close to what the other number 11 does, I think the Titans have a good one for a long time. because wearing number 11 and even looking like Micah Parsons, let's see if on the NFL level, can he play like Micah Parsons? I have a very good feeling he can. One thing I did want to get into before we go any further is with the combine, it seemed to be like a lot more players did not participate, or if they did, they only did one or two of the drills, did the interview, kind of, saving everything for my pro day, which is fine. I don't think any of us really expected Cam Ward to throw, or Shedeur Sanders. But with so many of these, like I said, this is going to be a defensive packed draft. It's not going to be a sexy draft. You would think that a lot of these guys, especially some of these, you could definitely improve your stock from, let's say, 18 or 19 to 9 or 10. So I kind of expected a lot more of the, especially, competition. What did old buddy do? Okay, well, I think I'm better than him. He put up, 51 on the bench. I'm going to go 55 or whatever. But there was definitely some folks that did rise. There's a lot of folks that it was still an entertaining combine. Let's put it that way. But like I said, without all the sexiness of this draft, I kind of had a feeling that a lot more of these guys would have participated in the combine. But it is what it is. So yeah, the Titans, I really think are going to address their quarterback situation in house. Maybe run one more with Will Levis, see how he's kind of progressed. But regardless, I really don't see them competing for anything worthwhile in 2025. So get the best player, get as close to a guarantee as possible, and move on. Now, with the second pick, we have the Browns. Now, Adam Schefter has come out and said the Browns are drafting a quarterback. And like I kind of teased with this, it doesn't make sense to be paying Deshaun Watson $50+ million and then try to sign like a Sam Darnold who's going to be, I'm not saying he's going to get 50, but it's going to be 45. So you have essentially, let's call a spade, $100 million in two players that both play the same position. Now, granted, Deshaun is probably not going to be playing this year, so they need something. And the something that I have is, let me see, where the hell did it go? There it is. Cam Ward out of Miami. Probably not a big shocker for anybody, but from what I've seen, he's as close to, I guess, as close to a slam dunk as a quarterback can be in this draft. And so it just makes sense. We just saw the Broncos do the same thing. The Broncos cut Russell Wilson, which he still has still owed a lot of money that has to be on the cap. So it just makes sense to draft a quarterback, fill those years or year, and kind of move on. It's the only way to make financial sense of anything, and Cam Ward gets the nod here. Now with the third pick is the Giants. Like we've already talked about, the Giants need a quarterback, not a quarterback in the quarterback room. Where do they go from here? Now, I'm going to tell you that my pick for this is hinging on them signing Sam Darnold. Whether that'll happen or not, I'm not really sure. But there's this. This is from Diana Rossini. And this broke minutes after the news of Matthew Stafford re-signing or restructuring with the Rams. The New York Giants are shifting their interest to Aaron Rodgers. They've been discussing it all week in Indy per sources. Now, if you follow Pat McAfee or any of that, you've known that Aaron's out of the country. Won't be back until this week. So how in-depth were those talks? I'm not sure. Were they talking to Aaron's agent, or was this simply internal conversation? Who knows? Who knows? But like I said, I did this on, prior to the Sam Darnold or the Matt Stafford conversation. So I have them taking Travis Hunter, quarterback wide receiver out of Colorado at number 3. This Giants defense needs a good corner, and with the offense, I know you've got your guy. I know you got your guy in Neighbors. Having Travis Hunter couldn't hurt. Couldn't hurt. And you might be asking yourself, well, Turbo, you just said that they need a quarterback, and why wouldn't they take Shedeur here? Well, the main reason why they're going to be signing, at least in my eyes, a veteran quarterback is Brian Daboll, and that front office needs to win now. Their jobs are depending on winning now. They don't have any more time to be developing a quarterback, especially, like I said, especially with this crew. Now, if they were picking this high last year, then I could see taking one of the guys from last year. But we're 1 year removed from that. Daboll is skating on thin ice already, so they need a veteran presence in there. I say Sam Darnold. Diana Rossini says Aaron Rodgers. I would stay away from Aaron Rodgers in that case. Now, how good's the offensive line? Who knows? That team stinks. So that's why at least Darnold is a little bit more mobile than Aaron Rodgers. But yes, there is not New York does not take a quarterback here, and it's a good way to kind of throw in a, hey, we still want to be dynamic type thing, and I know we can't replace Saquon, but here's a new toy. Here's a new toy. So we got the Giants at 3. Number 4, Patriots. Like we talked about, Pats do not need a quarterback. They had Drake May. They have Drake May. A lot of mocks have them going offensive line here. I don't. This pick right here is strictly because of who the head coach is. New head coach over there. I have them going Mason Graham out of Michigan. Mason Graham seems to me like a Vrabel type guy. He seems to be like that type of guy. I think those two will get along swimmingly. And I think for the Pats right here, they have a lot of holes. But this is one that they can fill relatively easy in Mason Graham. Plug him in, run stopper, and just be the anchor that defensive line needs. And again, getting back to Vrabes, I have a feeling that that is the pick that he wants. And if you rewind the clock back a little bit to when he was with Tennessee and they traded away A.J. Brown and then supposedly drafted his replacement, which we haven't seen said guy even be close to what A.J. Brown was, Vrabes got pissed. I think that was like check mark number 1 as to why Vrabel was no longer with Tennessee. Now with the Pats, Mason Graham, Michigan, for me, slam dunk. This brings us to number 5. Jacksonville Jaguars on the clock. Jags do not need a quarterback. At least as of March 2nd, 2025. Trevor Lawrence is still the quarterback of the Jacksonville Jaguars. There was some rumblings that he was possibly going to be traded or was on the trading block or they were looking for offers, but he's still there. And what a better way to make Trevor Lawrence happy is Will Campbell, offensive tackle out of LSU. Protect your guy. Keep him upright. Keep him healthy. I think if you've watched the Jags the last couple of years, which I haven't watched a lot of them because they've been terrible, they're having a hard time keeping Trevor upright. So why not get you the best offensive lineman in the draft? The downside is that there really isn't like a Joe Alt type offensive lineman in this draft. But from what I've been seeing, a lot of the mock drafters are really, really high on him. So let's keep Trevor clean. Let's put it that way. Let's keep Trevor clean. Number 6, the Raiders. The Raiders. Now, this is actually where I had Matthew Stafford being traded. You might be saying, why in the hell would he go to the Raiders? Let's take a trip down memory lane, 2K crew. Let's just kind of see if any of this makes sense. Prior to being traded to the Rams, he just so happened to be taking a vacation and ran into McVay. All of a sudden, they were best friends. Next thing you know, bing, bang, boom. Jared Goff to Detroit, Matthew Stafford to the Rams. And yes, with some other picks, but just bear with me. Bear with me. Now, fast forward to a couple weeks ago, Matt Stafford again on vacation runs into Tom Brady. You might be saying, well, what does Tom Brady have to do with any of this, Turbo? Well, Tom Brady is a minority owner of the Raiders. So why? It was a ski trip, I believe. They just happened to run into each other. Okay. The likelihood of Stafford running into two very predominant members of the NFL while on said vacation is rather fishy. So I just put 2 and 2 together and was like, okay, Matthew Stafford is going to be a Raider. And I also thought, too, that regardless of trading for him, they were still going to take this player. Have a veteran kind of do what Drew Bledsoe did to Tom Brady, do what Brett Favre did to Aaron Rodgers, what Rodgers did to Jordan Love. We all get it. Sit behind this guy and watch. Sit behind this guy and learn how to be a pro. And what better person to do it than behind Matt Stafford? He's still very good. Why all of a sudden this trade stuff with the Rams was kind of beyond me. Stafford was still very, very good. They were in the playoffs. They were in the playoffs. Next thing you know, they want to trade away their quarterback. So I think that if the Giants don't sign Sam Darnold, I do think Sam Darnold ends up in Vegas. And regardless of that, the Raiders are taking Shedeur Sanders from Colorado. Shedeur Sanders from Colorado, and I think that is the perfect way to do it. Have a veteran. And I'm not saying that Sam Darnold is the creme de la creme of veteran quarterbacks, but if you go off this past season, for a lot of the year he was an MVP candidate. There's no denying it. If you played fantasy football, he was putting up some of the best numbers out of any quarterback playing last year. So don't tell me that he can't do it. Don't tell me that he's over the hill or washed or insert whatever term here. And dude's not even 30. Dude's not even 30. I believe he's 29 years old. So what a perfect spot. Now, then again, does Darnold want to go to a place that is kind of rebuilding? I think that's where Tom Brady comes in. Tom's the one that got Pete out of retirement to come coach his team. Well, maybe old Tom has some tricks up his sleeve and gets the deal done for otherwise kind of a dying franchise, if you will, a franchise spinning its wheels. But I think in this case it really could work. It really could work. Pick number 7, the Jets, Jets. A lot of folks are rumored or kind of scuttling around here that this is where the very talented tight end from Penn State, Tyler Warren, could end up. I don't foresee them going that route. I think there's many other needs before, because the weapons on offense was not the downfall of this team last year. The defense at times was, but it's coming off of the year previous where this defense was winning games or keeping this team in games. So I don't think they're too far removed from that for that to be the case. So with the 7th pick, I've got them going offensive tackle Josh Simmons from Ohio State, the U. Because that was one of the big things is we saw Aaron Rodgers running around just scrambling for his life, it seemed like. So to me, it makes perfect sense too. All right, well, the Jets have already said that they're not going to continue their relationship with Aaron Rodgers, which is fine. Whoever you have playing quarterback back there needs to be able to stand up. Because it's hard to play quarterback when you're laying down. I mean, that's just science. So what better way to kind of keep your quarterback upright than a very good offensive lineman? Number 8, the Panthers. The Panthers. Bryce Young showed glimpses of why he was taken number 1 overall a couple years ago. It took some time. He wasn't the, fresh out the gate, hitting the ground running like CJ Stroud, but it seemed like he was getting things together. So let's give him that toy, Tyler Warren from Penn State. As we saw Penn State use him, he can run the ball. He can catch the ball. Hell, he can throw the ball. Dude is just bigger than everyone else on the football field. So as far as a pass catching option, because we're at pick 8 here, 2K crew. We haven't even talked about a wide receiver. This wide receiver group is not that good, especially in comparison to the last handful of years, where there's like that guy or those guys. You look at last year. I mean, there's 3 probably taken in the top 15. But Tyler Warren is the best pass catching aside from Travis Hunter, because like I said, I'm putting him in the DB category, not the wide receiver category. But as far as pure pass catchers, Tyler Warren is the best in this draft. So I foresee the Panthers going that route. Next up is the Saints at number 9. We talked about it. Okay, is there going to be are one of these other quarterbacks like Will Howard, like Jackson Dart? Is this where a team is going to trade up to get one of those guys? I don't think so. I think. Well, we'll get into that when I wrap up my top 15 here. But this is a situation where, man, I've always been on Derek Carr's side. I've wanted Derek Carr to be very good for the entire time he's been in the league. And aside from that year where he was the MVP was his to lose and he got hurt, he hasn't been the same guy since. So where do the Saints go here? The Saints are going Mike Green, outside linebacker for Marshall. Outside linebacker for Marshall. Green is the top linebacker prospect. To me, defensively for the Saints, this makes the most sense. And like I said, this is a draft that's going to be absolutely littered with edge rushers, linebackers, not so much corners, at least at the top. But this is a very, very deep defensive draft, and I think as far as best available at number 9, I think you cannot go wrong with Mr. Mike Green from Marshall. My Bears up at number 10. Now, like I mentioned, Ben Johnson, new coach, offensive coach. In my opinion, the weapons are there. Pass catching, blocking, tight end, check. A running back that is very, very capable of running the offense, check. A very good wide receiving crew, half a check. Rome Odunze is very good. They do need some, I could say some support, some help in that. But I am sticking with the offense here. And I'm having them take Kelvin Banks, offensive tackle from Texas. And this should be a no-brainer, 2K crew. One of the reasons Caleb Williams was as bad as he was last year is he got hit all the time. All the time. That Bears offensive line was absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible. I do think they'll address some of it in free agency, but I think here, pick 10, Banks makes the most sense. Banks makes the most sense. Number 11 is the 49ers. Like I mentioned, this is not a Kyle Shanahan, kind of area to draft in, so it's going to be rather interesting. Going to be rather interesting. Okay. I have them going Will Johnson, cornerback from U of M. A little note here, Johnson is a scheme fit, and his size will play well in division featuring wide receivers built like power forwards. And if you watched any of the Michigan games this last year, the offense was very, very hard to watch, but this defense was legit yet again. And we've already seen Mason Graham go off the board. Will Johnson, second member of that defense to go here in the top 15. Let's cruise to number 12, Dallas Cowboys. Now let me back up here. Before we talk about who the Dallas Cowboys select, there's always been, okay, what would the normal person do who has common sense? What would they do? Well, that is not the same way that Jerry Jones thinks. So the most normal person, okay, you had going to walk into the Hall of Fame, right guard, retire. Should we look for offensive line? One would think so. There's some question marks on the defense. Should we use it on defense? Common sense person would say, yeah, let's take a look. But Jerry Jones is the GM, the owner. So he makes all the decisions. So what is he going to do? He's going to take Ashton Jeanty, running back from Boise State. I'm not saying this pick is completely and utterly asinine. I'm just saying there's a lot of other holes to be filled. And is Jeanty is he going to be like the generational back or that back that's going to lead the league in rushing year in and year out, aka, a la Saquon Barkley, a la, insert name of badass running back. I don't know. 2Ks and I talked about Genty a lot when it came to the Heisman. I've caught a little bit, a handful of second halves or whatever of Boise State. I did watch the playoff game. This is a Jerry Jones pick because this draft is littered with running backs. Genty being, Genty is the front runner for a reason. But is Genty worth a first round pick, especially at number 12? Me personally, I think they should go elsewhere. But to me, this is a Jerry Jones pick. This is a give me the shiny new toy pick. That's the only reason I have it here. Pick number 13 is the Dolphins. The Dolphins. And this one here should be just as easy as pie. Tyler Booker, offensive lineman from Alabama. Got to keep Tua healthy. Got to keep him upright. I know there's question marks on the defense, but like I said, this is a very, very deep defensive draft. Get you a guy that can help keep your quarterback upright, keep him healthy, because this team goes as Tua goes, hands down. He did a much better job staying healthy this last year, but still taking unnecessary hits, still not where it needs to be. Get him some protection. Get him some protection. I think Booker will do that. Number 14 is the Colts. Now, here is kind of where there's been some rumblings about Mr. Anthony Richardson. Is he good? Who knows? Is he a freak athlete? Absolutely. Absolutely. But he's been hurt. Last year was basically his rookie year. He played the most part of 4 games in his rookie year and then was hurt the rest of the year. Do the Colts bring in or draft one of these quarterbacks here? I don't think so. I do think they get him some help on the offensive line, though, with Armand Memembu, offensive lineman from Missouri. It just makes sense. Get Anthony Richardson some protection here. And Armand seems to be the guy here from Missouri. Seems to be a really good fit with the Colts. It says has the tools to play right tackle, but would be a plug-and-play starter at right guard. Okay, cool. Send that dude to Indy. Send him to Indy. To wrap up our number 15 pick here, again, Falcons do not need a quarterback. They actually have one too many. So where do the Falcons go here with this pick? And I think they go, let me see here. I think we're going to see a D tackle come off here in the form of Jalen Walker. Nope. Yeah, edge rusher from Georgia. I had my notes mixed up. Jalen Walker, edge rusher from Georgia. Like we talked about, offensive weapons are here. This is again, get where you can get the best value. And a lot of people are having Walker as a top 10 prospect or top 10 pick. So if you can get him at 15, to me that's a no-brainer. All right, well, 2K Crew, that rounds out our top 15 mock draft. And yes, you can call it a lazy man's mock draft because I'm not going any farther. Because, in my opinion, after 15, this is where you're going to see the trades. Now, we could see a trade at the very top, but I unless it's Giants going over the Browns, which I don't think will happen, I think this all stays status quo. I really do. I think this stays status quo. I have a feeling the Titans, if they want to trade down to the Browns or down to the Giants, I could see that happening. Excuse me, but after 15, you have teams that obviously have holes to fill, but they're not huge gaping holes. They're not an absolute need necessity right now. This would be, especially if you're lacking on defense, this would be a trade back, acquire picks to just revamp a defense if needed or fill a bunch of holes. So this is where I foresee starting at 15 or starting at 16, excuse me. Because at 16, you have the Cardinals, 17 Bengals, 18 Seahawks. The Seahawks might be one of those teams that would step into the Jackson Dart sweepstakes, perhaps. The Will Howard sweepstakes, perhaps. Now, it's been documented that Howard did not have the best combine. But I have a very good feeling once you get these guys to their pro day, you're going to see the player that they really are. I wholeheartedly do. The Bucks at 19, Broncos at 20, Steelers at 21. What are the Steelers doing with their quarterback situation? Are they going to stay with Russ? Are they going to stay with Justin Fields? Are they going to go somewhere else? I believe either birthday or belated birthday to number 7 over there in Steelers country. Chargers don't need a quarterback. Packers don't. Vikings don't. Texans don't. Pretty much all of the teams remaining do not need a quarterback because they're the good teams. So this is where you're going to see either one of these teams that did not get their quarterback in the early stages, a la the Giants, if they do go with Travis Hunter, try to trade back up into the first round to grab a Will Howard, a Jackson Dart. And I do think those two guys will go at the bottom of this first round. I really do. I really do. And like I say, bottom, all the teams that I just listed there, Chargers, Packers, Vikings, Texans, Ravens, Lions, Commanders, Bills, Chiefs, Eagles, do not need a quarterback. Each one of these teams has holes to fill, yes. But again, for a quarterback needy league right now that has a lot of holes to fill and not a lot of good players left, are you going to take a gamble on a questionable veteran free agent, or are you going to, kind of leverage some draft picks and go up and get a project, which I think all 4 of these guys are projects. And honestly, out of these 4, give me Jackson Dart. Dude looked amazing at the combine. He was one of the few big quarterbacks that threw. I think his stock went up a whole lot. And watch the tape. Watch the tape. Cam Ward was electric. Shedeur Sanders, electric. Jackson Dart was just as electric or more. And then Will Howard just wins. And I think the thing with Will Howard, like 2Ks and I talked about shortly after the national title game, is this guy can run. He's a very mobile quarterback. Ohio State really didn't need to use him like that, but he is very, very mobile. And yes, I think all 4 of these guys are very, very mobile, but he that's kind of like his ace in the hole, where most people really don't realize it. He has a cannon for an arm. Now, you might be saying, well, Turbo, it's really easy to have a cannon for an arm when you have that receiving core at Ohio State. And granted, yes, I'll give you that. I'll give you that. But C.J. Stroud had a very similar Ohio State receiving core. He's doing just fine. So I'm not going to pigeonhole him saying that he can't throw in the NFL just because he had a badass wide receiving core in college. Now, granted, he could have been throwing to the best one out of the bunch, which is saying a whole hell of a lot considering how many awesome NFL wide receivers Ohio State has produced here lately. But yeah, I think he quite possibly could have been throwing to the best one out of the bunch. So that's the Turbo and 2K's top 15 Lazy Man's NFL mock draft. And like I said, especially in this draft, once you hit 15, there's two teams with quarterback questions. So I think that's when you're going to get the trades start popping off. I like I talked about, I really don't think this is a very sexy draft. Will I still watch? Damn right. Damn right I will. But you're going to see a lot of guys' names unless you follow the teams that they came from very, very closely. You're not going to know a lot of the names. And I know for a lot of the folks that kind of takes away some of the luster, some of the shininess from a draft like this. But these are the drafts where it separates good front offices from bad ones. When there aren't the shiny things to pick from, when there aren't the can't misses or the, quote unquote, game changers or generational talents that are just littered throughout the draft. This is where scouts, GMs, this is where they actually earn their money. This is where they earn their money. It's impossible to say a first round pick is a diamond in the rough, but when the rough is very tall, you might be finding a Pro V1. Let's put it that way. It's not quite a diamond, but it's a Pro V1. I don't know if that makes any sense. But when the draft is so deep at just one side of the ball, or defensive linemen, linebackers, edge rushers, you're going to see a lot of them come off the board, especially early. And if we were having this draft 10 years ago, you would see a lot of these running backs coming off the board in this first round, aside from Genty. Get both boys from Ohio State. Get Cam from Arizona State. I mean, there's a ton of guys that Omarion Hampton is one guy to keep an eye on, because he will be taken in the first round. I have him going to the Chargers at 22. Omarion Hampton. Keep that in the memory bank, because he will be taken as well. Just some other names to keep on the lookout for. I have the first wide receiver going 19 to the Bucks, McMillan from Arizona. I'm not even going to try to pronounce your last name or first name, excuse me. So I'm not even going to try. I have Colston Loveland going to the Broncos at 20. I think that's all the... Now, one thing that would be absolutely asinine, and stay with me. I know this is going to be a long shot. That's why I took a pause, because I want you guys and gals to hang in there with me on this. The Chiefs don't pick until 31, second to last. Let's put it that way. Second to last. And I know this player is not going to be there when it's their turn to draft. But we've seen the Chiefs move up. And normally their trade partner are the Buffalo Bills, but the Buffalo Bills are only one slot ahead of them. And I have a feeling this is going to take a lot, and it's probably not even possible. But I want to be the one to put it on tape and be like, how crazy would this be? How crazy would this be? And if we take a look at the Chiefs, yes, they lost in the Super Bowl. They made it to yet another Super Bowl. But what was the glaring weakness of that Chiefs team? It was the offensive line. Hands down, offensive line. So I have a very good feeling that the Chiefs will be addressing that through the draft and free agency. But, just but, for shits and gigs, what do you say? For shits and gigs, what if somehow they get their hands on Tyler Warren? I'll say that again. What if the Chiefs get their hands on Tyler Warren? Kelsey's getting long in the tooth, has 1 year left on his deal. Says he's coming back for this year. Okay. Now, granted, there's Noah Gray and whoever their second team tight end is and third string. But if you could usher out a first ballot Hall of Fame, possibly arguably the best tight end of all time, with a stud like Tyler Warren, I mean, he fits what Andy Reid wants to do. They could hand the ball off in the backfield to him. This guy's huge. He's gigantic. He blocks. He catches. He throws the ball. Wouldn't that be something? And I know all you Chiefs haters are like, that's the last thing they fucking need is this. But it seems like, Tyler Warren is an Andy Reid guy. Fits perfectly. Fits perfectly. However, I have Tyler Warren going 8th to the Panthers. So to go from 31st to 8th is probably unprecedented. This probably won't happen. So for all you Chiefs haters out there, don't worry. Don't worry. The likelihood of this actually happening is very, 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 very remote. But it's one of those things like when you buy a lotto ticket, you know the chances are you're never going to win. But isn't it cool to kind of sit back and think once you get home with that ticket and it's in your pocket and you're like, man, $250 million, what would I do with that? And you can sit there and think about it all you want to prior to buying the ticket. But once you buy the ticket, that's when you're in. That's when you're in. And the Chiefs already have their ticket. It's, okay, how do we get that ticket to get what we want? And wouldn't it be something? Tyler Warren to the Chiefs. Not saying it's going to happen, but wouldn't that be the talk of the draft? Somehow, some way, the Chiefs make this happen. And like I said, the likelihood of this to happen is next to none. Next to none. I probably have a better chance of winning the Powerball with the ticket in my pocket right now than the Chiefs getting Tyler Warren. But there's a chance. Very small, but there's a chance. And like I said, there's a million people. I can already tell. Turbo, that's so fucking stupid. That's so fucking stupid. Well, if it does happen, I'm going to clip this and be like, yeah, fucking told you so. Told you so. But like I said, it's the likelihood of it happening is next to none. Next to none. Well, let's see here, 2K crew. There is one tweet I did not get to, and that is the Seahawks. And this is from John Frisilla over on Twitter. Breaking. This again was Friday. The Seahawks and Packers are working on a potential trade involving the explosive DK Metcalf. Now, I haven't seen any follow-ups to that, nor have I seen anything else that's even confirmed, denied, or seen anything like, they're close, but just something to keep an eye on. Something to keep an eye on. What is this one? We did that one last week. Talked about Debo, the Royals, Luka. All right. Well, 2K crew, I think that's it. We've run our time. We'll have to get to spring training next week, and we're still looking at lining up that guest. I was hoping Mr. Seahut would be here this week, but it's Mama Seahut's birthday. So happy birthday, Mama Seahut. Hope it was a fantastic, fantastic day. And like I said, maybe we can get Seahut and 2Ks in here so we can talk some baseball, talk a little NBA, because the draft is still quite a bit away. We still have pro days. We still have a bunch of shit before the actual draft. I think it's like 50 some days. So We shall see. We shall see. But do not fail. There will be stuff to talk about. We will bring you the best content that we can. So everyone, hang in there. Have a great week. And as always, Jim Rome, we're coming for you.